Good evening and welcome to the first edition of EFNL Insight, a visual recap on this weekend's games across the divisions of all senior competitions. It was a big weekend for the EFNL with divisions 1 to 4 in the senior men's competition taking place, and it was great to see the Bulleen Templestowe Bullants join the competition with their first game in the broadcast game on Saturday afternoon. I'm Ryan Long, media manager with the EFNL, and joined by Josh Ward, a valued member of the media team and has done a fantastic job with the EFNL for the first edition of EFNL Insight.
Thanks, Ryan. Looking forward to being a part of something that's one of the new offerings in the EFNL media team offerings. It's sure will add another dimension to the mini podcast, the mini match of the rounds, and the record that we've recently introduced as well.
Yes, it's very exciting to have the record back, of course. One of the most asked questions every time I go around the ground, it's where's the record, and to have that back. It is a digital format this year, but that will come out every Friday via the socials and the website. Very exciting to have the record back. All the team sheets are in from the weekend's game, so keep an eye on that tomorrow afternoon. Let's jump into probably the biggest talking point of the weekend, and that was the game that we were at, the broadcast game at Ted Ajani Reserve, and it was the Bulleen Templestowe Bullants who came out on top in their first ever game, and we were lucky enough to be there to call the action, and it was a fantastic result for the Bullants. Won by 3 points, 47-44, in a great tight contest, kicking 3 goals in the final quarter to top off a memorable day and come from behind. Josh, it was a very exciting one for the club.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and it was great being out there on the day. Certainly a great atmosphere, a big crowd that piled into Ted Ajani Reserve. I'm not too sure what the crowd numbers were like, but certainly a lot of people came to see the introduction of the Bulleen Templestowe Bullants into the Eastern Footy Netball League after making the move across from the Victorian Amateur Football Association, and they got their money's worth. Not only did the seniors game go down to the wire, but also the reserves as well, and then obviously the 19s, a twilight fixture as well. It was great to see the Bullants have a successful introduction into life in the EFNL.
And Jake Sticker was another player who was absolutely fantastic, was really influential around the contest, and probably one of those players that you could just, obviously coming from Bulleen, and being in that premiership side last year in Premier Division, you could just tell the difference in experience that he led on the field.
Yeah, he was terrific, as were his brothers, Josh and Lockie. I thought there were times where their class was on show. Josh, of course, coming across from Bulleen, and Lachlan, still young in his career. I believe he might be eligible for under 19. But it was Jake, not just his skill level that was on display, but his work rate across the ground. He was often the one starting chains from defence into attack, and he was the key reason why Bulleen Templestowe were able to get the job done, and his fourth quarter was just absolutely massive as well.
And speaking to Jake after the game, he really summed up exactly what the feeling was around Bulleen Templestowe. So here's Jake from after the game.
Crowd in today as well. How good is it for the Bulleen Templestowe faithful? You got all the players, past players behind the goals. You got the under 19s about to play now. Must be a special moment for the club.
Big time. We're such a proud club, and especially me playing juniors here. We strive on unity, mateship, and just community. So you can see, as you can see, what a crowd. 1,000? It has to be.
I reckon it has to be.
There we go. Yeah. So yeah, I'm proud of the club. It's more than just us putting the jumper on. It's the people who used to play here. It's all the volunteers who've done a mountain of work to get to the AFL. So we're super proud.
Thanks to Jake Sticker, who gave up some time after the game to have a chat. It was a very exciting moment for him and the club, and fantastic to see for Bulleen Templestowe. They had to roll the dice to come across, and it's been a fantastic achievement for them to not only win the senior game, win all 3 games as you mentioned. Just a great start to life in the EFNL.
Yeah, they couldn't have scripted a better start to life in the EFNL with the Bulleen Templestowe Bullants, and they've certainly got a bright future ahead and going to be challenging in Division 4 this season.
Churnside Park and Kilsyth also picked up wins on the weekend in Division 4, and you can hear more of that on the EFNL Weekend Recovery podcast. But it is probably important to mention it was a special occasion for Forest Hill and for James O'Sullivan, who played his 350th game with the Zebras. A massive achievement, a very loyal player to the club, and they met the Cougars on the weekend and had a real good crack on the weekend. A lot of people, including us, expect maybe a tough season on the field for Forest Hill, but they were competitive for 4 quarters, and James O'Sullivan, a great achievement for him out at Coonung Reserve on Saturday.
Yeah, it's not something you see every day. Someone passing heck, even the 300 game, the 250 game milestone. So to play 350 games for the one club as well in Forest Hill, it's certainly a tremendous achievement for James, and it was great that he got the opportunity to lead them through the banner, obviously as their skipper, and they clearly showed some fight for him on the day did Forest Hill, and that was terrific to see, given we did obviously predict them to not have the greatest season, as I'm sure, as you mentioned, a lot of people would have.
A couple other big results around the divisions. Templestowe defeated Heathmont by 27 points. Having a look at the goal kickers on the weekend, Daniel Cooper, the big recruit, coming across from South Croydon, kicked the 5 goals. Carl Giovannini kicked 3. Michael Fogarty was back to his best into the side again after missing a lot of last year due to injury. Mariani also featured in the best in returning to the club. Mullinger had a big game, having the 30 disposals for Heathmont. But Josh, for Templestowe, it's a huge result for the Dockers to open up the season on the road.
Yeah, it definitely is. And without Bo Mitchener as well, who I think was a precautionary out for Templestowe, speaking with Nick Batsanis on the weekend recovery. And you see the likes of their new recruits, Daniel Cooper, Matt Mariani having an immediate impact. Mariani with the 18 disposals, but still the old guard, Michael Fogarty, Josh Warren, who's still young, up and coming. It's exciting times for Templestowe, and the ideal start to the season for them out at AJ Parker against the Heathmont side we've all rated pretty highly this season.
You're absolutely right, and I think maybe 3 or 4 of us tipped Heathmont to win the flag coming into this with their recruiting, James Appleby leading that. But if you look at it, without Baronia in the division, which they've dominated the last 2 years, it is now wide open. There's about 5 to 6, potentially even 7 sides that are in the mix. So a lot of these games are 50-50 ones, and it's very hard to tip. And on the road, to pinch one of those before they go and play the Waverley Blues at home is massive for them. And we did speak to the Templestowe senior coach, Nick Batsanis, on the weekend about the result. And here was Batsanis talking about Daniel Cooper and his impact in the Templestowe's game.
Yeah, he was super for us up forward. So he plays that sort of that hybrid full forward role for us. He works up and down the ground, but he's such a beautiful kick too. So that really helps us, not just in front of goal. His field kicking's an asset for us as well. So he's able to help link up play a little bit for us too. So he'll be really good for us this year.
It's great to have Nick on board on Sunday to be able to speak to him about the win, because it is a really impressive one to start the season. It's just his second full season actually as senior coach, obviously. Came into the role late of 2022. And I think this is a side that's only strengthened over the off-season with their recruiting. A lot of players have come from that Premier Division level, and particularly a couple of those names that you mentioned that are back in the side. I mean, they faced the Waverley Blues at home on Saturday. That's a game they won at home last year, and I think with the way they're going at the moment, they probably enter that as favourites, and you can just see the side really just developing a little bit of form early on to set themselves up this year.
Yeah, and a handy late off season inclusion in New Year Ashwin, and obviously Nick spoke about on Sunday about the fact that they might not see a whole lot of Ashwin, but when he's available from VFL, that he's going to be a massive inclusion, and certainly was over the weekend. But just touching quickly on Heathmont, next 3 games they have Croydon, Ringwood and East Burwood. I think they should go in as favourites in all 3 given the results from last weekend, but so it's no reason why they should be in despair after the loss. They'll certainly think they have every chance of going to 3-1.
I agree. I think if you look at those 3 on paper, they're all winnable. They probably go in as favourites as all of them. The challenging one potentially maybe Croydon, but they had a disappointing result against Lilydale on the weekend. But for me, I think they probably win the next 3. If they don't, and they have a couple of slip-ups, then potentially there's a bit of work for them to do, because we saw what happened last year. Very slow to get out of the blocks, and they finished great and challenged Baronia late in the season, but they left it all too late.
Yeah, they did, and I think that can hold them in good stead, knowing, but just getting early wins in general is always so crucial. We see it with sides who, whether that be at the EFNL or the AFL level, if they get off to slow starts, yes, you may be able to come back to a Hawthorn or something like that, but more often than not, given it's 18 games in all 5 divisions, or for Division 4, obviously, less games this season, it's still going to be hard to come back from a pretty slow start.
Definitely right. And Silvan's probably our other big talking point from the weekend in Division 3. They won their 2nd straight game, having played Coldstream a week prior out at Silvan Recreation Reserve. It's starting to become a bit of a fortress, Josh, for the Cats. An impressive win against Oakley, who we've all rated as a pretty high chance of going far this year. But not only are they winning, they're putting up some big scores too. 21-11, 137 defeated Oakley, 15-7, 97. The major goal kickers on the screen. James Charge kicked 5 goals, back in the side this week too. Lockie Lynch with 4. Oakley District, Blake Pearson and Connor Cochran both had 4 goals each themselves. But with the way Silvan are going, Josh, that's 2 wins to start the season, and it's a great start for a side that finished 9th.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really impressive start. Obviously, 2 games at home, which is a fortress and was still a fortress last season. It's always tricky going up the mountain and getting the job done, whether that be against Silvan or South Belgrave. But speaking with Jeremy Thomas at the start of the season, he said they had the talent on their list to go that little bit further this year to improve on their 2024 season, which obviously was a disappointing season, but they still managed to pick up the 4 or 5 wins. And I think we're in the end 3 games off playing finals last year, which obviously is a bit of a difference, but still with the amount of injuries they had to be able to contend was a good effort. But with Mateo D'Alfonso coming back, Garrison Askiak coming, Cameron Blease, we'll touch on him later. He's had a massive start to life at Silvan Recreation Reserve. It's certainly looking upwards for Silvan, and they do have a massive test this weekend though.
You're certainly right. They do play Knox at Knox Gardens Reserve. Had a really disappointing result there 12 months ago in the opening round of the season where they got thumped by the Falcons, and it's a good opportunity now to see how far they've come since that moment with a much more consolidated lineup and a bit more consistency. I don't necessarily think they're going to win this one, but I think they can certainly be right in the mix here.
Yeah, if they do manage to win this one through Silvan, then we got to put them as a contender for this season, because it's never easy going out to Knox Gardens Reserve and getting the job done. I mean, there was some sides who did so last year, Coldstream I think of in the middle of the year, but from then onwards, Knox were almost unstoppable. They even defeated Donvale out there. So it's all there for the Cats though to be able to move to 3-0. Even if they are 2-1 after this weekend, it's still a really good start to the season and a promising one.
Yeah, certainly right. As long as they don't get blown out and take a few steps back, if they're competitive against Knox and just prove that they could be a final side this year. I mean, 2 years ago they were playing off in an elimination final and were a kick away from going to a prelim. So it's certainly not that much out of their reach. We'll touch back on a few of those players. You did mention one there because we're about to go to our Premier Data stats this week, and we do have the luxury to the statistics for the weekend from Divisions 1 to 3. And Josh, I believe you've highlighted the top 5 players who ranked the highest this weekend in the Premier Data ranking points.
Yeah, so we'll start out in Division 1 out at the Moorbuck Nord game where the Mustangs comfortably defeated the Norsemen. So 2 Moorbuck players finished in equal 4th with 161 ranking points, and Kane Noonan and Jed Harbin, the number 11 and number 12 for the Mustangs. Noonan did it on the inside, 40 disposals, 15 contested possessions, 8 clearances, kicked the goal for good measure as well. Jed Hartman did it on the outside and on the rebound side of things, had 22 disposals, 17 marks, 8 of those intercepted.
17 marks.
Yeah, and 8 intercept marks as well, 11 intercept possessions as well. So they both got 161 ranking points between them. Number 3 from Surrey Park is Jack Mann, who's had...
No surprise there.
Yeah, absolutely no surprise. He had 37 disposals, 14 of those contested possessions, 8 tackles, 8 clearances, kicked a goal as well. Him and Kane Hendon combined for 72 disposals between the two of them. Going to be absolutely vital as the Panthers make the move up into Division 2 this year.
Did either of those two message you beforehand and ask to promote the stats? Or at least show you that
Maybe.
what they would have scored?
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe.
No surprises.
Moving on to the second best player in terms of Premier Data ranking points, and that is Cameron Blease, who was really impressed in his start to life out at Silvan Recreation Reserve. In the end, against the Oakley District, had 24 disposals, 67% disposal efficiency, and 17 contested possessions. Had, I think it was 50 hit-outs or 64 hit-outs in the end, and 8 of those hit-outs were to advantage. So and he had in total 178 ranking points. But the number one, you mentioned that Nathan Mullen-Jimmy had a really good day. Well, he certainly had one of the better games on the weekend. Had 189 ranking points in total. He's an absolute superstar of the division. 30 disposals, 27 contested possessions, 30 clearances. He also had the 52 hitouts as well. So took advantage of the fact that Bo Missioner wasn't playing for Templestowe, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see those numbers and bigger numbers for Nathan Mullen-Jimmy. He's just a dominant force, but he's the number one ranked player in terms of Premier Data ranking points this season, this weekend.
I think if you had 3 picks going into the weekend of who would finish on top, Nathan Mullen-Jimmy would probably be in the mix. And I think it tends to be that Ruckman do score quite well in Premier Data. So, and he's just influence around the game has been massive since joining Heathmont. So no surprises on that one. Fantastic to see the senior women's back this weekend on the field. More on that next week in the next episode of EFNL Insight, as well as the podcast. It's also a big day for Joel Galvin and the Bayswater Football Club, who are very excited to see Joel run out for game number 300 for the club. Set to take place this Saturday out at Bayswater Oval.
Going to be a really good contest, I reckon. I reckon Bayswater will look to lift for a club champion, someone who's become a piece of furniture, or part of the furniture, I should say, out of Bayswater Oval alongside his brother Bryce. They certainly get up for those milestones. I look back the last couple of years, they've had those milestones, I think, against Montrose, and they've been able to get the job done in those games. And this is a big test for them against the Baronia side, who had the bye in round 1 after Doncaster unfortunately went into recess, and will be very eager to test themselves and get onto the park at the Division 1 level for the first time in a very long time.
Absolutely. It's also a local rivalry. I don't know if there's a bit of a rivalry between the two sides going back all those years, but the last time they played was 2004, the two senior sides met. So it's a fantastic chance for a new rivalry to begin, and it's certainly going to be interesting, but it's not going to be easy for Bayswater with Baronia coming into this division. They've been ready for this for a long time. I think they're going to fare really well, but as you said, they do live for their milestone men, so potential one to keep an eye on there. If you're in the area, make sure to get down to Bayswater Oval, that game out at 2:20 p.m. Expecting a big crowd out at Bayswater this weekend.
And the match of the round on the Saturday for the men's, I won't be out at that game, but it's Montrose up against Park Orchard. It's a really interesting contest between two finalists from last season out at Montrose Rec Reserve. Right?
Absolutely, two very good sides, two finalists from last year, two sides that are looking to get off to a quick start. Park Orchard's certainly keen on bouncing back. I don't think it was an upset necessarily, but when you go 17-1 in the home and away season last year, and your list gets even better, you certainly expect to win most games this year, and to start off a loss would have been disappointing for them, but they get a chance to bounce back. They beat Montrose on both occasions last year, but both were pretty tight contests. So it's a game I'm really looking forward to getting down to on Saturday. You won't be there, as you said. Do you have a tip for this one? Are you tipping a chance for the home side to make it 2 in a row, or do you think Park Orchard's bounce back from their loss from South Belgrave?
Yeah, even though I tipped Montrose out of the top 6, I'm still going to back them in this weekend against the Park Orchard side, who you could say are vulnerable. I expect a response out of them, but Montrose could be almost at full strength, if not at full strength this weekend, with the potential inclusion of Brodie McLaughlin if he isn't selected in the VFL representative side that's heading over to South Australia to take on the sample this weekend. But I'm tipping the D's to get the job done. It's going to be a close contest, as you mentioned. I think it was 8 points that separated the two in their one meeting at Montrose Recreation Reserve. Last season, I expect it to be a similar margin, hopefully high scoring as well, with beautiful conditions on hand this Saturday.
Spot on. It's 27, 28 degrees this Saturday, Sunday, so perfect conditions to go out to the local footy, or if you want to stay at home, you can watch the broadcast or tune in on Radio Eastern 98.1 FM. And as you allude to, on the Sunday, we do have Mitcham play Vermont in a really exciting one. This is a standalone game for the EFNL, the first week of Premier Division, and the two sides, it's been almost 2 decades since they've met, and very exciting to have this rivalry back between the Tigers and the Eagles.
Yeah, the Battle of Rooks Road, I believe it's nicknamed, because Rooks Road, if you're familiar with the Mitcham and Vermont areas, those those surrounds. It's only that road that separates the two, or Mitcham Road, you could say as well. But I'm really looking forward to being out there. We are doing the history video as well on the Mitcham-Vermont rivalry, which is certainly one of the greatest and one of the biggest ones in the EFNL. There's countless others. You could argue Mitcham-Blackburn as well, Vermont-Bulleen, but this one I'm looking forward to seeing it back, seeing a big crowd. Obviously, gather round in the AFL. No VFL footy this weekend. I don't think any other local Melbourne leagues are playing any games this weekend, whether that be at the junior or senior level. So if you're around the area, if you're looking to get a footy fix as well this Sunday, get on down to Walker Park, the MCG of the East. It's going to be a ripping contest, that's for sure.
And Mitch will be very happy that you dropped the MCG of the East. They love when that comes up. But as you said, could be a massive crowd. I mean, if you have a look at the fact that it is the only game potentially in Victoria, it's going to be a massive day. Two big clubs. So make sure to get there early if you are heading down to Walker Park on Sunday. And that's it for us for the first edition of EFNL Insight. Josh, thank you again for coming in and doing a whole lot of work for this, for round one, for everything going on at the moment around the league. Another great weekend from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure. Looking forward to the weekend ahead. And the senior men's, the senior women's competition, obviously no netball and juniors, but it's going to be a big one nevertheless.
And thank you to everyone who's tuned in today to the first edition of EFNL Insight. We will be back this time next week to cover all the games from the weekend, senior women's, up and about, senior men's, and preview the Good Friday clash between Bulleen and Blackburn. Make sure to check out the record for then, which comes out tomorrow afternoon on the EFNL website and EFNL Facebook. Till then, we'll see you next time.